Whatever that thing is really does create some sort of a space-time bubble.
Yeah, but maybe it's not space. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's another dimension.
Whistleblowers told us UFOs don't fly using traditional thrust. They use localized space-time bubbles, warping space-time and creating gravity.
These vehicles display the ability to be transmedium.
But does that mean it can go through actual physical objects?
Yeah, they are warping space-time in a localized area, and they're basically creating a bubble that the craft operates in. And the bubble separates the craft from the environment around it. The environment becomes irrelevant. So it can move through physical space, could move from air to space to the water, frictionless, there's no splash. But the environment outside the bubble is irrelevant. They're creating their own space-time, essentially. They're warping space-time and creating a bubble around the craft.
Everything modern science knows about gravity is that it attracts, it pulls. Now, Bob Lazar explained that the craft he worked on emits a repulsive gravitational wave that cancels out its weight, creating a massive distortion in front of the craft. Instead of thrusting forward, the craft simply falls into that distortion.
And he went over to the emitter and rotated it, and he said, try and touch it. And I put my hand on it, and it rebounded off. And the closer you got to it, the more it pushed back. There's no repulsive force that we've discovered, because that would be a great propulsion system.
So how do you actually steer a repulsive force field? Lazar breaks down the exact alien propulsion system he worked on, using 3 hollow gravity emitters to navigate space-time.
The emitters were the only things that were a different color. They were black. The bottoms of them were hollow, and you could see sort of copper-colored plates inside there. They were hung by large diameter tubes, maybe 3 inches or so, just like the waveguide that extends down onto the reactor.
When all 3 of the amplifiers are being used for travel, they're in the delta configuration. And when only one is being used for travel, it's in the Omicron configuration.
So as far as propulsion, the craft operates in 2 different modes, called Omicron and Delta. Omicron meaning 1 and Delta meaning 3, and that's referring to how many of the amplifiers and emitters are being used. So in Omicron configuration, the craft lifts off the ground using 1 amplifier and 1 emitter. The other 2 emitters can swing all the way up to 180 degrees out the side of the craft, and what that does is cause distortion in space and kind of forces the craft to fall into that distortion. Kind of the opposite of the way our aircraft work. Instead of throwing material out the back, this causes some sort of distortion in front of it where it's drawn into. The other mode of operation, delta configuration, is really used when the craft is outside the atmosphere, where it's sitting in free space. In that mode, the craft rotates on its side. It does a belly roll and faces the bottom of the craft towards the destination. The 3 emitters in the bottom of the craft focus on the destination. They're brought up to power and the craft makes a jump. Now, the amplifiers don't operate on a continuous fashion. They pulse. They produce a pulse of energy and then require a recycle time. It's somewhere around 10 milliseconds or something like that. But then they essentially can fire again and make another jump. So in traveling to a distant location, the craft will make several jumps. It's never just one long jump, across the galaxy or something like that. It's just a series of jumps, and that's how it moves. When it arrives to where it is, it'll get close to the destination, switch over to Omicron mode, and set down or cruise around or whatever its plan was.